Hi, I'm Colleen Kruger. I'm a music industry professional with over 10 years experience in production, management, and music curation. As an independent contractor through my career, I've noticed a knowledge gap in navigating available health and wealth options. With so many options available, it can feel overwhelming and not knowing where to start. Unlike corporate culture, where support's ingrained and much of that process is taken care of internally, contract workers are often left on their own figuring things out. So, in collaboration with Elephant Artist Relief, I'm excited to be hosting a short series of talks. I'm going to invite professionals from insurance, tax, financial planning. We're also going to explore some health resources and coaching practices. And through these talks, I'm going to aim to address some key questions. So, who should I talk to first? What types of support are available? Where can I find the support? When should I be looking into support? And how can I afford support? The goal is to empower arts and arts workers such as yourself to succeed and thrive today and into the future. Art and artists are essential to our community's vibrancy. So, taking care of these sort of core essential needs, health and wealth is essential for future art. You can find out more about EAR at elephantartistrelief.com. And before we start our talk, in spirit of truth and reconciliation, we at EAR and our members acknowledge the lands we meet, live, work, gather, and play on. These lands are the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Nation, which includes Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai. And we acknowledge the Tsuut'ina and Stoney Nakoda First Nations, the Métis Nation Region 3, and all the people who make their home in the Treaty 7 region. We hope you enjoy the talks and we'll see you soon. Thanks. Hi, I'm Colleen Kruger. I'm a music industry professional with over 10 years experience in production, management, and music curation. As an independent contractor through my career, I've noticed a knowledge gap in navigating available health and wealth. Here we go. Um, Hi, welcome to the EAR Talks. Today we're talking with Brett Osness, who's an insurance broker. We don't need to name companies, maybe. You can name your company if you want, who you broker insurance through. Um, but we're going to talk to him today and sort of chat about insurance and different kinds of insurance and what's available, what kind of questions we as seekers can ask to an insurance broker. But yeah, I'll hand it to you, Brett, to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about yourself and how you got into insurance.
My name is Brett Osness. I started my insurance agency in October of 2018. So that's 5 years now. Prior to that, I had some experience in insurance working with my dad's office in my early 20s. Then I pursued a career as an architect for 10 years and came back to insurance. So that's my background.
Hey, a bit of creative background too, coming from architecture and doing all of that kind of creative modality, I think.
Yeah.
We got both.
We got a little bit of both worlds and they're very opposite, right?
Very opposite, I can
very
imagine.
opposite ends of the spectrum. So,
nice.
Yeah.
I would say I'm independent contractor, so insurance for me has been a long journey of discovery.
Yeah.
Like someone approached me who worked in the arts like in my 20s, and really her question was like, who has your back? Like if anything happens, if you don't have anything in place, like you really are on your own.
Yeah.
So she sort of approached me with that and taught me a bit about like critical illness and disability insurance, and got me in on a plan, which I still didn't quite understand, but I just said, yes, I'll do it. Sure. Sounds safe. I should probably have that. And then in my most recent years, just sort of discovering life insurances and what is available through those things. So I guess the first question would be for someone who's really new in approaching insurances in like
Mhm.
terms of personal insurance? Like what kind of insurances would they look at to start, I guess?
Yeah, so just a little, they can look, there's all sorts of insurance, right? Like my agency, we do home, auto, um, business insurance, life insurance, critical illness. We do health benefit plans. So the one nice thing about like my agency and my brokerage is we're kind of a one-stop shop. So it's really nice to start a relationship with someone who doesn't know a lot about insurance, and we can walk them through everything. Like they need the home and auto, and then we can look at their need for life, disability, critical illness, and all those other types of insurance products.
Mhm.
Um, for someone who really doesn't know a lot about insurance, I think the first step is always to start the conversation and have the dialogue with someone, with an advisor, with an appropriate advisor who knows what they're doing, because that person will uncover their need,
Mhm.
right? So you can really go into, a good advisor will uncover your coverage needs and work with you with a budget and come up with the appropriate tailored product, right? Um, I think everyone needs to really look at life insurance, critical illness, and disability. Um, just especially if you have debts, right? Debts, and we look at their assets, their debts, any kind of future expenses that may incur after death, um, and whether or not their family's protected, right, to cover those debts, because everything will be passed on to their family member.
Right.
So it's really hard to say, like, the appropriate products for everyone might be a little different,
Mhm.
per scenario, but I think the first step is always just to start the conversation. And a lot of times people are hesitant to start that conversation around something like, getting an illness, having an accident, or passing away. So
Yeah, it leads to scary thoughts, you know?
yeah,
Insurance is like something you have to think of before something scary happens.
yeah,
Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm sure we've all experienced things where someone has had a scary incident and wasn't prepared, and the amount of stress it adds onto your
yeah,
life and to your family and everything else is like can be quite immense. So I think it's
yeah,
worth it. I think like small amounts of insurance and like you can add to it incrementally over time is really worth it's more for you and for your family. So it's an extension.
yeah. And there's tons of options like that, right? Like you can start with small, like even term policies that are as low as $15 a month, and you can layer them over time. If your life changes, you add kids to the family, and there's more of a need to increase that coverage.
Mhm.
There's lots of options, to work with the clients and incrementally kind of step up that insurance through their
Right.
life. So
So insurance is more flexible than I think probably most people think. They probably think, okay, it's
yeah,
like one and done thing where you get like it's scary to choose your policy or it's scary to think about what your needs are in the future. But it's sort of nice entry point to say like you can start here at a minimal access point and sort of
yeah.
grow your need or grow like even just your affordability. So like it shifts
Mhm.
quite a lot as an independent worker. It's not as streamlined for some. So artists thinking of budget, it's like, well, you can start with a low budget, like cup of coffee or a couple cups of
Yeah,
coffee, and then grow
exactly.
on that.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the, like, a misconception about life insurance and living benefits is that it's expensive and it's a long process to get and go through to get the product. When really it can be very affordable, and you can put the application in, and there's like a 2-day turnaround in some cases, right?
Hmm.
So it's not as daunting as people think, right? It's, again, it comes back to just having the conversation with an appropriate advisor.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I do have these thoughts, like being Canadian, we have this conception of free healthcare.
Yeah.
I giggle, but it is free. I mean, in crucial times, it definitely is really accessible and like
Yeah.
meets someone's crisis needs. But I think preventative health is not really covered. So a
Yeah.
lot of the health and dental kind of things that people don't really engage with are probably pretty crucial in Canada, more so
Yeah.
than people think. Are those plans accessible or are they like a little more strict?
Like health and dent, no, they're definitely accessible. Comes down to like the application process on those would be looking at kind of your history, and whether or not, you're you use a lot of prescription drugs, right? There may be a limit that the company puts on that specific category of the plan, but they're all accessible.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's different levels and different options, obviously. For health and dental, we offer basic packages that are most affordable.
Hmm.
They cover everything from the medical services, health, dental, vision, prescription drugs. And then there is also an enhanced package. So same thing, it covers everything, but just at higher coverage limits, a little more expensive. And then there's hybrid options as well. So if don't have a requirement for vision coverage, you can have a basic limit on that and then a higher limit on, say, prescription drugs or whatnot, right?
Okay.
So there's lots of options. Again, the nice thing about the product I sell is that everything can be tailored to the client. So it's not so cut and dry. This is what everyone gets, because everyone is very, very different, right?
Totally. With health and dental, is it the kind of insurance someone needs to get when they're fully healthy and have no issues, or is it something they can tap into if there's already health issues?
Yeah, you can tap into it already. So it just depends on the severity and the frequency of those issues. So the underwriters will look at that. And again, if it is a real issue and a risk, and the company doesn't feel like they want to go down that route with you, they'll either they'll put a limit to that specific issue, or else they'll put an exclusion to that specific issue. But you'll get the rest of the package, right?
Okay.
So
So it's
it's not a total decline. It would be specific to some of the issues,
okay.
but that only comes up when they're severe, right?
Right. Okay. So like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know the scale or scope of that, but
Yeah.
I'll leave it to people to discover. For like disability insurance and critical illness insurance, I feel like those probably have a different point of entry.
Yeah.
I don't
Um,
know if you can tap into those once something happens, and it's probably the kind of insurance you need before.
yeah. Critical illness, the general public doesn't realize that 1 in 3 Canadians get a critical illness by the time they're age 65. So there is a massive need to have this policy, really. Um, and I don't think people really look at, like, it's one of the product lines that people don't bring up very often. Like, they'll come in for your home and auto and business, and then even talk about life a bit.
Mm.
And critical illness, it's more, people don't bring it up. So we tend to just talk about, they're really affordable, and they can be an add-on to your life policy.
Okay.
Okay. And they're really covering any future illness that may come up, right? And it's a tax-free benefit if you're diagnosed, and you can use that money however you want based on that need during recovery. The nice thing about critical illness, if you don't use the policy,
Hmm.
you can get 100% of your premium back. Okay. So that's
Right.
something else, something nice about our products. So people don't understand that as well. So if you can afford it up front and you
Hmm.
don't use it, you can get all your premium back. So it's kind of a no-brainer policy too.
Right. So it's sort of like a side nest of savings in a way.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we
So
don't have a surplus of savings. Like the cost of dealing an illness is
yeah.
immense. Like you,
Exactly.
you need time away from work, you need time to recover. You probably need new expenses to like for your illness that you wouldn't think of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of critical illness insurance only because I've recently had someone go through something that didn't have it, and you feel the stress, you feel the like heaviness of, oh, if only you had this, and like, oh, it's just like one of those moments where you like go like that, where you're like, I told you you got this years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know,
And,
but life happens is all I would say, is that like life happens, you can't predict it, you can't guarantee your health, and like if you're gonna get any of these kind of package like insurances to look at, I would say the ones where you have to live with the consequences
mhm.
of something happening are probably pretty worthwhile, I
Yeah.
would say. I don't know.
Yeah. And I agree. And you bring up a good point. Like we'll get a ton of people coming in or giving us a call, looking for these types of coverages after the fact. They themselves go through something,
Mhm.
or a family member or someone close to them goes through something. And oftentimes, like if it's themselves going through it, they may not be eligible to get a policy after that, right? So
Mhm.
just try and, this is a great talk just to educate people a bit, and even have the conversation that these policies are very affordable for people, right? And they just
Yeah,
need to make a quick call and
yeah,
get some
so
quote.
worth it. I would say
Yeah,
very, very worth it. I mean, disability probably in the same ballpark, where it's like
yeah,
good to have. You don't know what's going to happen in life. Things just happen,
yeah,
and part of life's unpredictability, having those insurances just protects you and your family to deal like at
yeah.
like a baseline deal, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
and
but
disability, yeah, it's another great product. It's an
yeah,
income replacement product.
right,
So
totally. Because if you can't work, is it
yeah,
an replacement? And you could also get an income replacement insurance as well.
so that might be different with other companies. We offer just the disability, and it is an income replacement policy for anyone that is unable to work, right, from an
Right.
accident or illness.
And
So,
does that work similar to critical illness? Like if you don't use it at a certain point, you get your premiums back?
so for our product, we can get you 50% premiums back on a disability. Okay.
Like,
So critical illness is 100% and disability is 50%.
sweet.
And disability really, it's the coverage amount is like tied to your income. So we'd go through like your income. So if you have $100,000 income versus a 50,000, it would be a different coverage limits allowable. So that's one thing. You can't just come in and just say, I want this much a month and I'll pay for it. It has to do with your income.
Right.
And
Okay. Is that you're able to adjust that if someone grows their income over time?
exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, yeah, disability insurance and critical illness insurance, good ones to explore.
Yeah.
Not the most romantic topics to think about, I think, for a lot of
Uh,
people. They're like, oh, I don't want to think about the potential of something happening. Like it just seems dark. But I would contest that, like, when something does happen, it gets darker if you don't have
yeah.
things in place, and that can help sort of get through it, you know?
And it can really make and break families, right? If you have
Totally.
it in place or if you don't.
I
So
would also add to it, it's like without those insurances, like I think a lot of people think the government will have these programs in place to help them, like workers' comp or
yeah.
EI, or like, just like general welfare support. But a lot of those programs are so limited and they don't necessarily pay your bills at the end of the day. They're like
Yeah.
percentage of your monthly expenses. So if like you don't really have like a fixed income month to month, like how EI looks at it, they look at your last 3 months. And
Hmm.
say as an artist, you have a very flex income. So like if you don't have a consistent income, say you made $1,000, like you're prorated based on your last 3 months, not your whole life of
Yeah. And I
EI.
and I know EI's I think it's 55%
Yeah. It's
of
55% of
yeah,
that last 3 months of
yeah,
work.
it's not, and I think workers' comp is 120 days from the accident of coverage. So what happens after 120 days, So there's
Totally.
definitely gaps, and again, uh it's being educated about like the ins and outs of what you have, right? What the government offers versus what's available out there
Mhm.
privately. So
Totally. And yeah, I think a lot of us probably lean or put our hope, like, sorry, what is the word? I guess put the responsibility on the government to have our back
yeah,
in time of need, but it's just really not sustainable to think that way, I guess, for individual lifestyles.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's my thinking. I've been solo contracting for like 12 years. And like, more and more as you get older, you really have these moments where you're like, damn, like what happens if this happens? Like,
yeah,
you're like your measure of stress limits are like less and less, I think, than when you're in your 20s. But
yeah.
when you're in your 20s, if you set these things up, they're really more cheaper, right?
Oh,
So like as you get
yeah,
older, they become more expensive.
yeah,
And that's usually when you have that pressure cooker to like get these things in line. But
yeah.
if people have them when they're quite young, I think they're even cheaper, correct?
Correct.
Mhm.
Yes, 100%. So all of these product lines go up every year
Okay.
for the individual, right? There's more of a risk the older you get. So you're exactly right. If you can get it at a young age, it's very affordable. And young meaning like even under 40 is still young looking at some of these product lines, right? So
Hmm.
uh,
Totally. Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, that's the best time to get it when you're still healthy.
mhm.
Um, so yeah, those are the, I guess, romantic ones is disability, critical illness, and health and dental. I would put health and dental as the third prong. Like,
Yep.
look at that one third. But if you have need for health and dental like pretty regularly, it's probably worth looking at, but not
Yeah.
essential. I would probably place disability and critical illness more essential. Um,
Mhm.
and then life insurance, the other real people love thinking about their life term,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
but like when should someone look at life insurance and like really ultimately what kind of insurances could someone look at and who does it support?
Yeah. So you can like everyone should look at life insurance, right? You are going to pass away at a certain time. Um, so there's several options. It can be really affordable with like a term policy versus a permanent policy. Term is like renting a home. So you'd like pay over a term you pick, and then at the end of the term, the policy would either be terminated or you can renew it at the new age, which would be more expensive, or you
Mhm.
can convert it to a permanent policy. Okay. Excuse me. So the benefit is they're really affordable. Like a term policy for like 500,000 for a 35-year-old could be like $20 a month. Okay. And it protects, if you set that up young, it protects your insurability for life. So you can convert it over to a permanent policy without having to go through a medical down the line. Okay. So if you do have a term policy and you get cancer or something else that would make you ineligible for life later on, you can get around that by having a term already set up, right? Um, Permanent policies uh, are the policy kind of everyone wants in time. You have it for life, okay? A permanent policy, you select like a similar pay period. Say you're going to pay on it for 20 years. You make payments, and then after the 20 years, you own it and you don't make a payment again, okay? So they're a little more expensive, but they are the policy that you have forever. The nice thing about
Cute. live to 100.
Yeah, exactly.
Life expectancy is going up. So
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
yeah.
That's a good thing. Yeah. Um, the nice thing about permanent versus term is
Mm,
permanent policies have a cash surrender value. So it's like a side pot of money that grows over time. And you can, if you decide to cancel the policy, you can take that money out. Okay. Or you can take a loan on that money. So it's almost you can take a loan on your life policy in that sense.
okay,
So yeah.
cool. And then, yeah, so term ultimately, like, however, whatever the scale is, if you start it young, can the scale of term be
Yeah.
longer? Or
Yeah.
like
So
the last year of insurability?
you can do 10, 20, 30, or to age 65 is the terms.
Okay.
Okay.
So at 65, you can decide to turn it into a permanent?
Permanent. Anytime during that term, you can convert it over to a permanent. Okay.
Gotcha.
So
Is
they're
it?
really, and like I have 3 children and
Yeah.
I've set up permanent policies for the kids, right? When, at age 1, 1, 2, because they're $15 a month. They're very affordable when the kids are young. And, they're also kind of like, they can take a loan against it when they're 18, right? It'll
Mhm.
be paid. We did like a 15-year term. So they'll be paid off at 15 and the kids will all have a life policy in place.
Nice.
And yeah, and the nice thing they can at 18 we'll shift ownership to the kids and they can choose their beneficiary. So if they get married or have kids of their own, they can have ownership of the decisions on that policy.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then they're insurable for life. Like,
you got it. So it's more about not thinking about passing away, but protecting their insurability and giving. It's like another stream for estate planning, right? There's money here that grows. There's protection in the case of death. Um, it's just a lot of things, and they're a no-brainer. That cash surrender value on permanent policies outgrows the premium you've put in a certain time frame. So you can really cancel that policy after 20 years and you can get all your premium back plus some. So
okay. Nice. Yeah. And starting it with a kid. I mean, they have
yeah,
all the time in the world, ultimately.
yeah.
I think.
So
I've
yeah,
set them up for kids in my family too. Just I think, yeah. I mean, what if something happens to anybody in my family, I would just be destroyed. So it's like also sort of supporting my period where I'm gonna not be functioning if something happened to a child in my family. That's
yeah,
my thinking on it. It's more, you know, future planning is not always the funnest thinking patterns. And I
mhm,
think a lot of people just stay away from it because it's, yeah, I mean, it's not the best things to think about. And it's really just planning for the worst, but it's also planning for recovery
exactly.
at the end of the day. Because,
And there's it's just as you move through life is that you have a higher responsibility. Like you said, like you think about it different now. The older you get, you think about some of these things differently. And it
hmm
just comes with the responsibility of taking care of others or, you know,
hmm
leaving leaving a legacy that, you just think about things and it's good to plan early. And the early and younger you are, the more affordable it is and the better off it is. So
yeah, totally. I'm a
yeah.
fan of I'm a fan of planning and I'm a fan of future thinking, even when it's dark. But I guess that goes to say too, like if artists maybe don't have a family or like they're arts workers and they maybe want to explore life policies, they could
Yeah.
leave those policies to charities and different organizations that they support or
Yeah.
appreciate.
You can
And
change
really,
your beneficiary to whoever you want as the owner of the policy.
right. So yeah, just thinking if you don't have like we're talking about having people to like pass things on to, but
Mhm.
you can also have organizations or like charities that you really appreciate or maybe have supported you through your career to like pass stuff on to. Or you can do a portion of beneficiaries to
Got it. Yeah.
organizations. Um, yeah, I mean, that really covers a lot of like a lot of things. I mean, it's a big topic. These things, you can deep dive into them, and I mean, the nitty-gritty of details can get deeper, but I think really the moral of the story is that it's accessible and like affordable depending on where you're at, and the earlier you get into them, the better.
I,
Um,
totally.
yeah, and the fact that independent workers and artists don't have corporations setting these things up for themselves, we're sort of on our own.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but yeah, like you're a very open person. I'm sure you would be happy to like have conversations with people. People don't need to feel like they need to purchase the
Exactly.
insurance on the day, like take home the paperwork and look it over, do some deeper research, and
Yeah.
that's
And I
find what
think
works for you.
the the biggest message too is that these products are tailored to people's situations, right? Like through the dialogue and conversation, we really uncover like a really good product for that specific person. So people often think that, it's this and that, but really we can tailor and work with that client in the budget, in the need. And there's so many options within these, like there's options within term, options within critical illness.
Mhm.
So if they want to have a conversation, they can reach out anytime. Be happy to, like, there's no obligation for the sale or anything, but it's just more to educate people out there. So
Totally. Yeah, that's the ideal. I mean, that's what the hope is through these talks. Anyone that wants to discover this topic can watch them and get some information and maybe like take some of the scary part of it away.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why insurance is scary. I just like I think it just has that like mentality because it seems like it's a lot of paperwork. It seems like it's a lot of numbers, and it just seems like it's a bigger thing than it actually is once you're into it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the general thought, right? When really what it is a conversation,
Mhm.
and the paperwork falls on the advisor, and we take care of most of that. But it's really just a chat, right? An in-person or over the phone conversation.
Nice.
So it's pretty simple. It doesn't have to be a complex process at all. So
And then yeah, totally. Well, that's sweet. I mean, we can share your contact info if you want on the description, and people can reach out
yeah,
um, at their leisure. And then, yeah, ask deeper questions and find out more about the insurances. But I'm definitely personally a fan. I have my insurances. I definitely I get sad and frustrated when some people didn't put them in place because
yeah,
it's very, yeah, it is what it is. Life is unpredictable. And I look at insurance more cooperative, like, you know, you're buying into a company as part of a whole system and everyone's sort of taking care of each other as
yeah,
markets work. They're doing their thing money wise. But yeah, it was great to chat. I don't know if there's
yeah.
any other points you want to add to the misconceptions of insurance, but
um, sorry, I've had a cold, so I'm.
oh, no worries. Tis the season.
Yeah. No, I think that covers it. The biggest message, like you said, I just want to say it's a simple process. It's not daunting. It's affordable. Just reach out. People should just reach out, and whoever they talk to, just get some information. It's just what I see in my experience is it's a matter of time before everyone kind of wants the product, right?
Mhm.
Whether you're young, you're single, you're not thinking about that, but when you get married, you make people come in and start to add coverages just to protect their loved one. And then I really see it with kids, like if the people start having families, um you know so often people insure stuff. You insure your auto, you insure your home, you insure your contents, but they don't think about insuring the number one asset to their family is them bringing in the money and supporting everyone. And so it's really important to like flip that idea and think about ensuring yourself. You're the most important piece to the puzzle. So
Totally. Yeah, I agree. Well, that's great advice. I hope people reach out in general, or like just figure some of the small things out first and grow it over time.
yeah,
Yeah, thanks for chatting with me and taking the time from your day. Uh,
yeah,
I'll put your contact info in the description if you feel comfortable with that.
yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. But yeah, thank you.